So in this video, we're just going to talk about the overtaking manoeuvre. It's a manoeuvre that we as drivers are potentially doing regularly. If you live in the city areas in heavy built up traffic, you probably don't get the same amount of overtaking manoeuvres. But this is not something they teach you with any degree of finesse when you're learning to drive. It's something you tend to pick up over time. And a lot of drivers, myself included, picked up bad habits. It's only when you start talking to professional drivers and going on more advanced driving courses that you start to understand there are nuances involved in the overtaking manoeuvre to maximise the safety and the efficiency of that overtaking manoeuvre. Overtaking is something that we do every day as a driver, but when you live in the countryside, there's usually vast opportunities to overtake, particularly those slower motorists. If you, like me, live in a tourist town, you get a lot of tourists dripping along the roads. So just overtaking them is actually helping keep the flow of traffic moving. You're not adding to that big jam of cars behind them. The overtake involves a change in direction. You're moving out into the other lane in order to overtake. So any change in direction requires that you just make sure that you're moving into a space that is free, that's not occupied. Don't assume because you're building up speed that no one is trying to overtake you. I've seen it done lots of times. A quick check of the mirror before you proceed to pull out any overtaking manoeuvre, and also just look behind, check over your shoulder, just make sure there's nothing in the blind spot. So once you've checked that all is clear, you can then indicate and proceed to move your car through the overtaking manoeuvre quite safely. So before we get into the nuances and intricacies of the actual overtaking manoeuvre, just a few points to bear in mind. Passing with speed in hand. What do we mean by speed in hand? Well, this is where you've built up the speed that you need to carry you safely around the car you're overtaking. So unless you drive a particularly powerful car, you won't have the option of just moving out, putting your foot down and instantly picking up enough speed to safely take you around the car that you're overtaking. It's good to view as far ahead as you can. If there's any junctions that could well present a hazard to you if a car suddenly emerged from that junction midway through your overtaking manoeuvre, and it's always good to have an escape route, a backup plan. At what point do you abort the overtake, brake and cut back in behind the car you're overtaking? Or at what point do you seek evasive action or perhaps go for an escape route off the main carriageway to one side between the cars? Being prepared for these unusual events and eventualities could well save your life. But the mantra has to be, if in doubt, don't overtake. So when most cars overtake, they do it in a few series of moves. They go up behind the car, they steer right fairly sharply, then they steer left, go in a straight line, then they steer left to go in front of the car they've passed, and then they go in a straight line again. So that's a lot of steering motions, and that's a lot of fairly severe points of steering. So when you overtake, you need to try and make that as fluid as possible. So just angling the car out and gradually moving out in good time, going alongside them and then gradually moving in again will go a long way to making that manoeuvre safer for you and the other car. When you do those sudden changes, you're loading up extra weight on the wheel that is turning and you're more likely to skid or lose control. And it's also very tempting to cut things to the last minute when you do that. You go too close to the car in front. So if they had to emergency brake for whatever reason, or there was a mechanical problem on their car, you'd go straight into the back of him. You've not got enough of a braking distance between you and the car that you're overtaking. So it's always good practice to extend your overtaking manoeuvre, so you spend the minimum amount of time on the other side of the road, but you do that by building up speed in advance. You gradually move out and then you move back in when it's safe to do so. So pretty much you've just got a minor steering control taking you out and then another minor steering control bringing you back into the lane that you were originally in. So don't cut in until the car that you've overtaken has got sufficient stopping distance. So if you had a mechanical problem or had to stop quickly, you need to give them enough room to take evasive action. So think very much about your stopping distances. Thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. We'd hate you to miss out on the great content we've got planned. And have a look at this video and this playlist.